Hey guys, today is our second day of talking about circles, and today we're going to focus on circumference. Circumference is the distance around a circle, kind of like the perimeter of a circle. Now, if you look at the formula chart that I've posted in front of you, I've put the circumference formula up at the top, and as you can see, that circumference, in order to find circumference, or to use circumference to find something else, you also need to have information about what is the radius and what is the diameter. And we covered that yesterday. But what about that funny squiggly thing? That squiggly thing called pi. Pi is an irrational number. So if you think about it's an irrational number, which means it's a number that goes on and on and on and on forever and it never ends. But it represents a ratio. And here's what the ratio is. First off, let's quickly go back over what a ratio is. If I'm comparing like the number of boys in a classroom to the number of girls, and I'm comparing those two, it's called a ratio. If I'm comparing the number of boys in the class to the entire class, that could be a ratio also. It's just comparing two quantities. Now for pi, pi is a ratio, but pi is the ratio of the circumference and the diameter of a circle. And what some smart guy somewhere along the line figured out is if you take the diameter and you multiply it times pi, you'll get the circumference every time. Now, I'm sure that's probably not how he figured it out. Probably what he figured out is if you know the circumference and you divide it by the diameter, you'll get pi every single time. So you can know things now because of that. And so I have a picture right here of pi. It's an irrational number. Most of the time, we'll only go out two decimal places. We'll call pi 3.14, but just know that it goes on and on and on forever. And so for the most part, if you just focus on the three, what it's saying is that if you know the diameter, the circumference will be about 3 times bigger than it, which means, say, if this is 10, then this is going to be a little more than 30, the circumference of this circle. If this is, say, 5, this diameter is 5, then the circumference is going to be a little more than 15, because 5 times 3 is 15. So that's all we're going to be doing today. We're going to be learning how to find the circumference. We're going to be learning how to find the radius. We're going to be learning how to find the diameter. Okay. What you need to do is use your formulas and just plug in the numbers and you'll be good to go, because you're basically just going to be multiplying and dividing one time. That's it. So what you need to do is write down a formula, substitute the numbers in, and then solve, and you'll get the right answer every time. So let's go for it. Let's go ahead and get started on that. So I'm looking at our notes. Hopefully you have a copy of these notes in front of you. And so let's get started. It says the circumference of a circle is the distance around a circle. We talked about this, similar to the perimeter. And then it talks a little bit about pi. And it gives you the two formulas. These are the two formulas that you would find on your formula chart. One of them uses the R for radius, and one of them uses D for diameter. So pretty much in a nutshell, just a little bit of hint. If you have a circle and they give you the radius, you can use the radius formula. They give you the diameter, you can use a diameter formula. That's just a little tip. You don't have to do it that way. So first off, let's do what we did yesterday. Here we have 3 circles. Let's identify whether they're giving us a diameter or whether they're giving us the radius. So on number 1, what do you think that is? That's correct. This is the diameter. The second one, what do you think? You're correct again. It is the radius. And how about the last one? You're correct again. It is the diameter. So now I have a choice. I can use this formula or I can use this formula. So I'm going to use whatever formula of whatever I have. So on the number 1, I have the diameter. So I'm going to use this formula. So like I said earlier, we start with the formula. So I want you to write the formula down on your piece of paper. And I usually kind of spread it out a little bit because then that makes substituting numbers in a little bit easier. Now I'm looking for the circumference, so I don't know what it is. We always know what pi is. It's 3.14. And then they told us that the diameter is 13. So that would be times 13. Now, instead of making the times sign, I'm going to put the 13 in parentheses because we're kind of getting away from using the X, the times sign. We're getting away from using a dot even for multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and use parentheses. But you know what? If you want to use an X or a dot for multiplication, go right ahead. Just so you know what I'm doing. Now I can get out my handy dandy calculator and do this, but I'm gonna work it out because one thing that you need to remember how to do, one thing that we learn in the 7th grade is how to multiply with a decimal. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 13, and if you can do this on your own, go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and get this done. I'm going to go ahead and work it out. 12, 4, 9, 0 for a placeholder, 4, 1, 3. I'm going to add up now. 2, 8, 10, carry the 1, 4. All right, so I've worked it all out. I've completely ignored the decimals. Now I look back at the original numbers, and this decimal is 2 places over. There's no decimal in the 13. It's there, but it's behind it, so I can ignore it. So I'm going to take my answer, and I'm going to move the decimal 2 places over. I'm going to start at the back of the number and go to the left 2 times. So my answer is 40.82, and it's yards. And not only is it yards, but it's yards squared. Oops, I take it back. Pause. I'm thinking about area. I'm thinking ahead. Don't put a little 2 there because this is not yards squared. We'll get to that later. My bad. All right, let's go to the next one. It gives me the radius, so let's see, what's the formula for that? C equals 2 pi radius. So let's see, 2 times 3.14 times 3, which is the radius. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3.14. Again, if I work that out, 3.14 without a calculator. Again, just a quick reminder of how to multiply with a decimal. So I have my answer, but there's no decimal in it. So if I look at the original numbers, this decimal is 2 places over. There's the decimal for number 6 is behind the number, so I can ignore it. So I'm going to move this decimal 2 places over, starting from the back of the number. So my answer ends up being 18.84 feet. Let's move on. They gave me the diameter, so I'm going to use the diameter formula, which is C equals pi times diameter. So C equals 3.14 times 20. Okay. Again, I'm going to go ahead and, get that back here. 3.14 times 20. That 0 is a placeholder. 2 times 4 is 8. 2, 6. 2 decimals over. 2 decimals over. 62.8. And I'm not going to put the 0. If you want to put the 0 on the back, you can. It's correct either way. 62.8 inches. All right, moving on. Now, I've told this story before. I'll tell it again. When I was taking a college math course, it was called trigonometry, and crying literally to my father because I thought I was going to fail. He said, look, whenever you get confused when you're reading a word problem, draw a picture. And I'm just going to tell you that too. Draw a picture. So what it says here is that you have a circular swimming pool, a circular one. That means it is a circle. And then they tell you that the pool has a diameter of 21. There's a diameter of 21. This is the diameter. Is that looking like what we've been practicing up above? Now it looks like something I can work with. How many feet around? Okay, around, remember that is the circumference. So this is when it's around, it is a circumference formula or a circumference problem. If you were sitting in my classroom right now and you have your formula chart out, or if you're at home and you have your formula chart out, write the word around next to the word circumference on your formula chart, because it's always just helps you remember these are circumference problems. So it's gave me the diameter, so I'm going to use this formula. Filling in the blanks, it's 3.14 times 21. And I went ahead and I did the math on this. I worked it all out. And I get 65.94. Let's see, this is feet. So this is going to also be feet. All right. Good luck. And remember the steps. Write your formula down. Substitute the numbers in and solve. And I'm going to go ahead and add one for this is to label. Label whether it's the radius or the diameter. It's super helpful. See you later. Bye-bye.